The purpose of this screencast is to share with you the survey that I constructed, the data that I gathered, and my future plans. What I might do as a result of having gathered this data. So here is my survey. This is what I shared a link on my Facebook page and asked my Facebook friends if they had children between the ages of 13 and about 19, if they could get them to take the survey. I also put a link on my Edmodo page. I didn't archive my classes yet, so some students might have found it, and I did have 2 students access it through the Edmodo page. And then I emailed a couple of people that I knew had a child or children in that age group. So I did get 14 responses. Clearly, I would like to give this survey when I get back to school so I can get the data on my target audience. But I think this was a good trial run because I know what I would do differently now. So I made the survey, basically asked some pretty standard questions. I wanted to know how old each respondent was. I might be able to correlate that with their access to technology, thinking that perhaps older students might have greater access, maybe more disposable income with jobs. I wanted them to check all the different devices, not just that they personally own, but that they could bring to school to use in the classroom. I asked them then some questions about experience with online learning, either in a blended environment or just doing some school-related tasks, and then asking them if they ever just took a fully online course. So that was really getting at experience. And then I wanted to ask them some questions about their attitudes towards a bring your own device program. So I made some statements, and then I it's kind of like a continuum here where 1 is strongly disagree and 5 is strongly agree, and I kept that consistent so that I wouldn't confuse anybody taking the survey. So the first statement is about, I believe that accessing online content and tools, and I gave them some examples, would be beneficial to my mastery of academic content. The next question is, I think students should be able to access technology through mobile devices. Then the last 2 questions are really asking them about what they think might result from that access. So here's the question: if students are allowed to access academic content during class time with mobile devices, students will be off task more. The next question starts with the same sort of prefatory clause there, but then the statement is students would be more engaged in their own learning as a result of being able to access content during class time with mobile devices. So that was the survey, and I sent it to Katie Frenick. And there were no edits that I needed to make. I think that for both of us, we lacked some experience with spreadsheets. So I can see how I might now rework these questions so that I could have maybe some better, better visuals and maybe be able to make more sense of the data. Here with 14 respondents, it's not a big deal, but if I give this survey to all my kids, then we'd be talking about 110 to 130 students. So I might want to rework the survey a little bit and explore Google Spreadsheet. I don't have really much in the way of experience with Google Spreadsheets or Microsoft Excel. So I did learn some of the basics through this assignment clearly. So here is the result. I put this just in a table so that you can see each of the 14 respondents and their ages. So we only had 2 between 13 and 15, and everybody else was 15 and above. The next, again, is done in table form, but I think what you're able to see with the table is that everybody has access of these 14 respondents to some form of technology. And some have a couple of different devices that they believe they could bring to school. So that's encouraging. When we do our program, we are going to have available laptops for students who don't have access to a device they can bring to school. I was really interested in this question, and what was interesting to me is that half of the respondents had already taken an online course, and I think that is very encouraging in terms of a bring your own device program. But it also says to me something about how education's changing. If we just asked that question, a few years ago, I think I would have gotten very different results. With the blended question, I did define blended learning. You can see in this very simply that a blended course is a mix of face-to-face instruction with online content and activities. Most students have not taken. We have 2 yeses here. Only 2 out of the 14 have taken a blended course. Then this question was, how many times per week did you access the internet as part of a classroom experience? So not necessarily, on your own time doing homework, but during the class. And you can see that there was a lot of, at least, everyone was online at least once or twice during the week. And then we do have some students who accessed the internet more. Here's the attitude question, and I think this is kind of neat. My screenshot here doesn't include the entire question, but it says, I believe that accessing online content in schools would be beneficial to my mastery of academic content. The 5 is to strongly agree, and can really see that there's, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but there's at least a somewhat positive attitude among most of the respondents. We do have 3 that seem to have a somewhat, I don't want to say negative, but maybe believing that it might not make a difference to their mastery of online content. Of content. Here is the question about whether or not students should be able. And there are certainly a lot of 5s with strong agreement. And then we've got our 4s. And then we do have, 3s, you're kind of in the middle there. And then there are 3 respondents who question whether or not that should happen. And I think that's interesting, that students, that there are a few student respondents who are reticent about having that access. Now, here's something I think that's good information for me about the concerns that students themselves would have about off-task behavior. So many students admit that there would be more off-task behavior if they were able to bring a phone, a smartphone, or an iPad, and I think that's pretty honest. We do have some, actually there's only one really student that would seriously maybe question that, where we have a lot of 3s, and then we've got, at least there seems to be an admission here that, yeah, I think I would master my content, but I might also be off task. So that gives me something to certainly monitor. And then here is the idea about whether or not students would be more engaged. And here we do have some students who don't believe they'd be more engaged in their own learning. Maybe the idea that they might be off task. We've got a number of 3s here, and some 4s and 5s. So the 4s and 5s are really encouraging, but we do have some students who question whether or not this program would make a difference. So what I think going forward is that I would certainly rework my chart, I think, so that I might be able to, once I give this survey out to my entire class, want to maybe cross-reference, of the students that don't believe students should bring. Are they saying it's because students will be off task? Are they thinking that it's not going to make a difference to the mastery of content? But what I do see from the survey is that there's a generally positive attitude towards this kind of access. What I think I need to do going forward is to give the survey to my actual students, rework the survey a little bit to make the collection of data and the analysis of that data a little bit better. And I think be very mindful that when I create tasks, when I create content for online consumption, when I maybe do a web quest or discussion board prompt, that I'm creating activities that are meaningful, that will deepen student understanding of a concept or an idea, that will have them engaging with each other beyond the classroom so that we can extend the learning that way. Knowing that there's a generally positive attitude did not surprise me. Some of the negative responses did surprise me. And, it might be neat to almost do a focus group so that you could really get at what students are thinking. If you could do something like that where actually we could delve a little bit deeper into what kids think. It would be interesting to do this survey at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year to see if the program did what we have intended to do. So that is the end of my screencast. Great experience. Think I would definitely I have it linked on my website, the survey. So I'll continue to gather more data, probably tweak the survey. But I think going forward, I've got some positive, mostly positive feedback from students.